The following broadcast is a Universal Citizen media production and is not a Galactic Historian product. The facts and circumstances of this broadcast has been taken from hundreds of accounts of demonic possessions and exorcisms being performed. We at Universal Citizen Media strive for authenticity and have stuck true to the narrative of these accounts. Let he who is of strong heart seize, savor, and learn from this broadcast, and may the profane fall away, as even in the midst of a flood the fool remains thirsty.
Chapter 5. The Abyss of Despair. In the relentless onslaught of darkness, Felicity stood at the precipice of despair. The world around her seemed to dissolve into a cacophony of infernal sounds as demonic forces unleashed their wrath. Felicity's appearance had gotten worse over the ensuing weeks. She had lost weight from nutrient deficiency, as her appetite had long since vanished, and had developed small lesions and sores on her skin under the weight of the demon's influence. Shadows stretched long and cold, intertwining with swirling energies that mocked her inner turmoil. The air was suffused with an oppressive heat that not only burned her flesh but also scorched the spirit. Each moment felt like a battle between the remnants of her sanity and the encroaching doom that whispered from the abyss. As the demons ravaged the crumbling cityscape, Felicity's mind began to unravel. The once vibrant landscape of memories turned into grotesque distortions of pain and loss. Every heartbeat reverberated with the echoes of her sorrow. In the midst of chaos, her thoughts became fragmented, like broken shards of a mirror reflecting a distorted reality. The piercing cries of unseen specters filled her ears, merging with the thundering pulse of her own despair. The line between the physical and the ethereal blurred, leaving her trapped in a nightmarish labyrinth of her own making. Amidst the chaos, Felicity encountered a figure who had once been a beacon of warmth and trust. In a fit of rage, fueled by both the demonic influence and personal anguish, a violent confrontation ensued. Words were exchanged like lightning strikes, each one inflicting a deeper wound than the last. The friend, whose eyes once shone with compassion, now glared with an unsettling mixture of jealousy and malice. Their heated argument echoed in the ruins of shattered trust, as both realized that the bonds they had once cherished had disintegrated under the strain of supernatural influence. The encounter left Felicity reeling, her heart marred by the realization that not all demons were confined to shadows external to her torment. In the aftermath of the confrontation, the true nature of betrayal revealed itself. The confidant, whose once comforting presence had provided refuge during times of despair, chose to abandon her in this final hour of darkness. This act of treachery was not sudden, but rather a cumulative wound that had slowly festered beneath layers of broken promises and unspoken resentments. With each dismissive gesture and biting remark, the delicate tapestry of their bond was torn asunder. Felicity felt an overwhelming sense of isolation as the weight of abandonment pressed upon her fragile soul, leaving her exposed to the relentless claws of supernatural agony. Alone with her torment and haunted by memories of better times, Felicity stared into a mirror that now reflected only despair. The image that returned was not that of a resilient warrior, but of a shattered being, riddled with insecurities and the scars of betrayal. Every flash of recollection morphed into a dark suggestion that perhaps the only escape from this torment was to surrender to the void. The reflection whispered maddening propositions, each one more alluring than the last, nudging her closer to the brink of self-annihilation. Torn between the desire for release and the vestiges of a once bright hope, she stood immobilized at the crossroads of life and oblivion. Every demonic shriek and every spectral shadow served as a grim reminder of her abandonment. The invisible forces that once lurked in the recesses of her mind now materialized in the physical realm, their presence a constant indictment of her failures. Crumbling facades and deserted alleyways echoed with the laments of forgotten souls. The oppressive atmosphere was punctuated by fleeting encounters with phantasmal figures whose hollow eyes mirrored the devastation within. With each step, Felicity felt herself sinking deeper into a mire of disillusionment, as if the very essence of her being was being eroded by the cold touch of supernatural malice. In a moment of stark clarity amid the chaos, Felicity recalled the times when friendship had been her anchor against life's tempests. Now that same connection had been betrayed, leaving her stranded in a desolate sea of sorrow. The once sacred bonds of trust had been sundered, replaced by an empty void where loyalty once resided. The overwhelming sense of loss was magnified by the spectral manifestations that filled every corner of the ruined city. As guilt and isolation merged, each memory turned into a searing reminder of what had been lost. The betrayal cut deeper than any mortal wound, compelling Felicity to face an inner darkness that threatened to consume her entirely. The path ahead was shrouded in bleak uncertainty, with every step a struggle against the malevolent forces that sought to claim her mind. The sight of demonic silhouettes dancing in the periphery of her vision stirred a paradoxical spark of defiance within her. Despite the overwhelming despair, a tiny ember of resolve flickered in the depths of her consciousness. This inner conflict, a clash between the instinct to survive and a yearning for release, waged a fierce battle within her heart. Felicity questioned whether reclaiming a semblance of her former self was possible, or if she was destined to be consumed by the darkness that loomed ever larger. As night deepened and the demonic roars reached a fever pitch, Felicity found herself teetering on the edge of ruin. The notion of surrendering to the void grew increasingly seductive, promising an end to the relentless agony. Every memory, every shadow of betrayal, converged to form a symphony of despair that resonated through the empty spaces of her mind. Terrifying visions and spectral attacks blurred the line between reality and nightmare. With each agonizing moment, the pull towards self-destruction intensified, making the prospect of oblivion seem not only inevitable, but almost desirable. The once faint glimmer of hope struggled to survive amidst the overwhelming tide of sorrow. In the darkest moments of that fateful night, Felicity's thoughts turned inexorably toward the unthinkable. The allure of ending her suffering, once a distant whisper, became a resounding call in the depths of her despair. Every betrayal and every demonic assault merged into a singular narrative of loss, pushing her closer to the final decision. There was no rescue in sight, only an endless maze of supernatural torment and heartache. As the demonic forces swirled around her, their ghastly forms contorting in a macabre dance, Felicity felt the cold tendrils of destiny wrap around her soul as she downed a bottle of sleeping pills, feeling herself releasing from her mortal coil. The abyss, dark and unyielding, beckoned with an irresistible promise of release. In the final throes of this harrowing chapter of her experience, Felicity stood at the very brink of earthly existence. Her heart pounded in a dissonant rhythm as the full force of betrayal, loss, and otherworldly terror converged upon her battered spirit. The atmosphere was heavy with despair as memories of a once hopeful past collided with the stark reality of her current plight. Each step forward into the inky darkness of finality was a reluctant surrender to the forces beyond her control. The boundary between sanity and madness had dissolved, leaving her in a liminal space where the only certainty was the overwhelming pressure of the dark abyss itself. As the night stretched onward, time itself seemed to dissolve into an endless void. Felicity's footsteps echoed in the deserted corridors of her memories, each one a symbol of both loss and the desperate yearning for absolution. In the oppressive silence interspersed with bursts of demonic rage, her internal world became a battleground for the war between resignation and the instinct to cling to life. The cosmos appeared to conspire against her, aligning forces both tangible and spectral to deepen her suffering. Every ember of hope was quickly smothered by a crushing reminder of her vulnerability. Amid the mocking laughter of unseen foes, she wandered through a landscape of shattered dreams and haunted recollections, each moment etching her ever deeper into a death chasm from which there was no return.
You can't hide. Come here. You can't hide from me. I want your soul.